All right. So, of course, I like to start all of our calls off with our mission statement, but this is just a little bit of our agenda today. So, I'm going to go over a couple of just industry recognized initiatives that are going on for the month of August, making sure everyone's kind of aware of that. Les is going to give us an update from HaulHub about some new additions. We're going to talk a little bit through the materials app and some new functionality that was added there. We're also going to give you an update on the pilot project status and a little bit of a sneak peek through payment estimates and change orders. We are going to discuss some unit performance that's going to be coming down the pipeline here in the next couple of weeks, next couple of months, and we're going to offer you some coaching as it relates to that. We're also going to let you know about some changes that will be coming to these monthly webinars that we host each month. And then Les is going to highlight our headlight hero for the month. So with that being said, like I said, I do like to start off all of our calls with our shared mission statement. So as most of you know, our mission statement at Headlight is to modernize the workflows of critical operations with trusted data, bringing together all of that data to make smarter decisions. So that's absolutely the reason we're here. We want to make sure that you guys, as well as our CEI firms, as well as our LADOTD users, are getting the most out of the system, and that we are using the data that we are collecting to make better decisions on a daily basis. That being said, that jumps me right into our safety initiative. So, for any of you that have joined these calls in the months previous, I do have a heart for safety. And so I do like to highlight some of the initiatives that are specific to the transportation industry each month. So, as most of you probably can imagine, in August, heat awareness is a thing. So it's super hot, all the things that all of you are more than, aware of, keeping hydrated, electrolytes, all of those things. So certainly that is one of the items that you see here on the just industry recognized initiatives for August. Um, National Traffic Awareness Month. Went back to school or will soon be going back to school. And so as we look at just school zones and bus safety, certainly pedestrian awareness of where those folks are as we travel about day to day and as we work on different sites, different projects throughout the state. So making sure that we are just aware of different initiatives throughout the industry. You can see some other ones there. Here recently, I know y'all can't believe this, but my eyes have been terribly bothering me. And so as I become more seasoned in life, I'm sure that will be a thing. And certainly as it is so hot outside, just being aware that there are different parts of your body that are affected by that. So like I said, I always like to bring to light some of the safety initiatives for the industry overall. And certainly if any of you in the coming months would like to share a safety moment, either as it relates to this or just in general, we would love to hear from you. We would love for you to share during this time. That being said, Les is going to give us some information as it relates to some HaulHub adjustments and HaulHub enhancements. Les, I'm going to go ahead and make you a person that can share.
Thanks, Lauren.
Mhm.
Yeah, so this month we have a couple of updates from HaulHub, and should be pretty quick here. There's not a whole bunch to go over, but I know that most of you have heard us talk about HaulHub stationing. Maybe a couple months ago they implemented something that kind of goes on in the background that you don't really see much when you're in the field on the app, but they have the ability now to upload design files that have the stationing built in for a project. And what that does for you is when you're in the field on your iPad, any ticket that you have there, basically you're able to automatically station that ticket instead of trying to find a physical stake somewhere that's probably not there anymore because somebody cut the grass and ran over it or something along those lines. And so without having to like go get the plans and try to figure out where you're standing or estimate it, they have actually built this into where when you build out a project stationing guide, in the software, which currently only the e-construction team is able to do, um, then you'll have your stations on the job. I've only seen this on maybe one or two projects. In fact, I kind of tested it on one of the projects in my old unit, and we have had a hard time getting the correct file types to upload. I guess some of our design software that LADOTD uses anyway doesn't produce the right kind of file. So we've been working with teams here at headquarters to try to, the design teams trying to figure out a way to do that. But in the meantime, HaulHub has introduced a way to do DGN files, which I believe is more in line with what we do here at LADOTD, and that there's still some conversions that have to go on, and I don't know. I'm not a designer, and I'm not very versed in these files, but I do know that that's a better file type for us to try to get in there. But there's also a way to manually input the stations, and that is what I've tried a couple of times since we haven't been able to get those files unnecessarily, which we should be able to now. Like it looks like that's going to happen with the DGN files. E-construction team is trying to get access to the system to where we can convert those ourselves and begin uploading them on your projects. But anyway, I wanted to share and show a couple of things so maybe you can see what I'm talking about instead of just hear what I'm talking about. I'm going to share my screen now, but I'll probably have to switch over to my iPad in a minute. So let me drag this in here. All right. So obviously this is the web version of HaulHub. And so I'm just going to go into my test project here. It's the one that we all have access to. And if you don't have access to it, let us know. We can get you added. If you know up here, notice up here at the top, there's a view map button. So we're going to go to that. Now this is not very like project specific because this is all over the state and we all have access to it. So there are dots and work zones and stuff all over the place here. Normally on a project, it would be just one place where the project is, correct? And so if you come here and I want to show you, there's a layer option and I'm going to turn off everything. I'm going to turn off work zones and samples and plants and equipment, and I'm just going to leave the station. And I went in yesterday on the test project and manually added these stations if I can get zoomed in here. So this is Baton Rouge. This is where I'm at the headquarters building. And this is just a little road right out in front where you park when you pull up here. But I went in yesterday in the admin portal. So you guys don't have access to that. Like I stated before, this is only e-construction, but at least currently, there might come a time where they turn that on that anybody can go in and add their stations until we kind of get this figured out. It's just us for now. So I went in and dropped 0 plus 10 right here. I just made up numbers here. I dropped this in, dropped the endpoint, right? And it auto calculated what my ending station was going to be. When I tried this on the other project, the live project, it was close. It was probably within about 20 feet of the end. And I want to say that might be a couple, maybe 3 mile project. So it gets you close. But what we find now is that nobody really fills out the station numbers on the tickets or even in headlight, right? And so just mainly because a lot of times it's hard to get a station off of a stake or something right there for the layout. And so this does offer a little bit easier way to do it. Now, I'm just showing you this map. This will not show up in the app when you're doing tickets out in the field, when you're like marking tickets as delivered and that kind of stuff. You're not going to see this line on there. But I wanted to show you kind of what this looks like in the background before I switch over to the app and show you what you can do with it. So I'm going to stop sharing here. Move my iPad over and attempt this. Dot app here, get me off of the screen.
Well, you did that much faster than I could have. So
This is working out. I'm starting to get used to this now, sharing my iPad this way, and it seems to work out. So back to the test project. And I also try to keep my mouse on here so you guys can see where I'm clicking instead of touching with my finger where you're not able to notice what I'm doing. LADOTD test project, which is what we were just looking at in the map on the web version. and this is I really like this view. I don't know if this is newer or maybe I just never noticed it before, but I love the calendar view so that, you know, if you're just choosing your day, like today's date, that's fine. But also notice that this little grayed out number here is how many tickets were shipped on this day. So that makes it pretty easy to go back and see. This is test project, so it gets tickets almost every day. But on your project, you won't be paving or maybe even pouring concrete every day. So this is really nice to be able to jump around and see what days you paved on, or even brought concrete to the job. And so I'm just going to go for today. And there's 4 tickets in here. And so when we talk about marking stations, this is what we're talking about, where it's kind of got this hash mark around this unstationed button. So when you click on this, it's pretty easy just to click in here and type in a station, right? So you could do 10 plus naught naught, right, and save this. But what we're talking about here is when those station stakes are missing and you need a little bit easier way to do this. If you notice, there is this little um, stationing icon here, right? So we're just going to press that. And because I'm really close to the job, you have to be within about 100 feet of the project for this to work, right? Of where the stationing thing is. You can see it automatically generated the station that I'm at, which is 3 plus 12.14. And it's got an offset here of about 44 feet. And looking out my window, that's probably pretty close to the center line of this little road out in front. And so not only is it giving you that station number, but it's also giving you an offset. So whenever you're in the field, if you go to mark a ticket delivered and your stationing is set up in the background, it's very easy to just grab this station, and I'm going to click on use station here. So it'll automatically put it in there and we save it. And now you can see your stations here. You can mark that ticket as delivered and you're done with it. So just a much easier way to grab a station, because we know how those station stakes are. And like I said, this might not be perfect. So when you're standing, especially the one like I did where it's a manual setup, but with it, if it's within a few feet, I mean, you're good to go. And that's at least giving us a little more data on where that ticket was accepted at or where that material went. It gives us a way to go back after the project. Let's say in a couple of years, we have to go do a friction rating on that. We can actually go back to the ticket data if you've marked some of these stations here and know where this lot or sublot is. And it's not going to give us really a station at that point. It's probably just going to be GPS coordinates, which is really great for the lab because they can just type that into their phone and go right to the spot where that lot or sublot was laid. So just a really neat feature. If you have a project that you want to do the stationing on, feel free to send that over to the e-construction team and we will attempt to get that DGN file created so that we can do that. I will say most like mill and overlays and stuff, we don't really get a stationing file on those design files. So that one might have to be put in manually. I was thinking about this prior to coming on here, like how we would handle that, because we really don't have a policy yet. This is even new for us. And I think the best thing to do would be if you want to manually add stations, um, a couple of people from our group will get on a call with you and we'll go into the map live and let you tell us where to put those marks, and try to get those stations on there for you if you want to try a manual route. So anyway, I want you to know that it's there. And if you want to try it, send it over. We'll try to get that design file. If not, we'll try to put it in manually for you. All right. So I think I can stop sharing on iPad here and go back. Let's see. I'm just going to leave the meeting here. All right. There
Okay,
is,
so was that everything with HaulHub, Les?
I have one more small thing to share. So let me go back. Okay, you guys are seeing HaulHub again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let me go to tickets. So there is a new, I probably should switch projects, but let me talk about this one right quick. So here's the 4 tickets or 5 tickets we have on the project today. What has been going on in the past, and this is pretty much what you would see on the app in the field, is there was not a lot number, like a good like sublot a place to put the sublot for asphalt or even concrete on a ticket here. And so what they were doing was in the product description, I believe, HaulHub was kind of training the Louisiana plants to just type in the lot and sublot number under the product description. It's kind of a workaround, but they finally got this in place, and it is this right here called the ticketed lot. And so now there is a dedicated place to put that. Let me switch projects because I want to show you what that looks like. They actually have it turned, it's turned on everywhere, but not everybody is set up. So let me go, I believe it's this one. And find tickets. Yeah, so you can see here in this kind of spreadsheet view that under the ticketed lot, you're starting to see those show up and populate in that dedicated field. And what I really like about this is because in the spreadsheet view, you can actually filter by this. And so you can imagine you get, several sublots done and you want to just go grab all the tickets for one sublot, you can easily filter those out and you have like a digital bundle of tickets, I guess you would say, filtered by that lot number. Where it was located before in the workaround, you were not really able to filter by that. And so talking with HaulHub this week, so here's the action items, I guess. If the plants are being brought on new and they are not used to putting in the workaround way, HaulHub is like immediately training this, and you're going to start to, just like this project, you're going to start to see it show up in the ticketed lot. If it is the other way, where they are typing that into the product description, then you can always like have that plant contact HaulHub and they will start working on that and trying to kind of retrain them on where to put that stuff in. So if you, I think eventually it's all going to just work itself out, right? Because HaulHub will eventually get everybody trained up on how to put this in, and they'll be working on that pretty diligently because HaulHub really gets on this stuff and really gets the plants kind of trained up on how to do what they're supposed to be doing. But just know that's coming, and it's just an easier way to filter and just a more dedicated way to keep up with those lots and sublots. That, I believe, unless there's any questions, I believe that's all I had with HaulHub. Anybody got questions on that? All right.
All right, good deal. I think the next thing we have up on the agenda is some updates for the materials app. And so Les, you want to share about that as well? Oh, you muted, Les, you muted.
Thanks for that, Lauren. So I've got two mouses, one for my PC and one for my iPad, and sometimes that doesn't work well. All right, so what I was saying is this is me again. This should not take long. Headlight recently had an update to the materials app, and it really is just adding one simple thing, and that is the filtering for samples. And they added a filter for the sample status. I will, Lauren, let me share, and I'll share that real quick, just to kind of show you what's going on with it. All right, so normally you know where the filter is over here, so you can see they just added the status here. And I'm not sure if this sort by was here before with all three of these things. I really can't remember, but it is something to talk about. So last created, that is the normal view that you would want to see. Like all of the samples that you create, what's the one at the top of the list, the one that you created very last, right? Last updated would be anytime there is a data change to a sample, that's going to show that sample at the top of your list. And then the last updated status is going to show whichever one. So if it moved from a test to a fail, right, it would put that sample at the top of the list. So that's just kind of what those sort ones are. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to reset and take my name off of here because currently it's showing only my samples, right? And so when you do that, it shows all samples in the state. So you can pretty much see any sample that's out there, which is really good if you are unfamiliar with creating samples and you want to go find one that's similar so that you can kind of copy off of it. I like that. It's good to go search for material to do that. So if you have a, let's just say a premix for soil cement or something along those lines, which would be this one, you could filter that by that material and see what others are doing to create a sample ID. It's a really good way to figure that out if you're kind of not as experienced in creating samples. Um, oh, sorry, go back to here. But the real thing that we want to talk about here is status. And so, uh, like the one that you would probably use the most to see is which are failing. Now, this is all across the state. That might not be too good for you, but if you do failing samples and you tie it to a project, so you can see all the failing samples in your project. So this helps you kind of keep up with what is passing and failing there. I believe that's a really good status to search by. And again, just play with this, see what works for you. I do want to bring up, well, two more things before I get off here. One is you can go to the, I'm sorry, go to the hamburger menu top right or the collapse menu button, which I believe is the proper term for that. You can go to about and you're looking for this 1.8.12 is the newest build. So make sure that you guys have the updated version. If not, try to get to a good service area or a good Wi-Fi and reload that materials app to make sure you're picking up these updates. And then kind of the bad news here is this works and I showed you how it works, but it only works because of my user level. So apparently, at least I got a report from one user the other day that when they try to do this, and the most popular thing is to reset this so that it doesn't have just you filtered to just your project. That's not going to be a good just your project. So you can see all of the samples in your project, which is a very standard thing that we do. I used to use that in the field all the time. Apparently that when they updated, it broke that. And so if you don't have that highest user level like I do, it's not working for you. So what I would suggest is I have a ticket in for it already. So Headlight may be looking for that already and trying to find a solution to it. Try that yourself. If it's not working on your project or your user account, please submit a support ticket on that so that they can get that fixed because that's something we use pretty often. And don't, this is one thing I've found is that we and this is collectively as LADOTD, it seems like when we find a problem with something, we just wait thinking somebody else submitted a ticket. Don't do that. Go ahead and submit one yourself. So, because the more tickets we get in there, right, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. They'll say, "Oh, there's a problem," and they'll get it fixed for us. So, anyway, I guess long story short, go try it. Try to use that filter if it's not working correctly. Support@headlight.com. A simple little email will take care of it. Any questions about materials app or filtering? Okay.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Les. All right, jumping right back in. So I am sure most of you know, and most of you would like to know that we are doing our best to sunset Site Manager. And so, as we talked about last time, we have started our initial pilot for payments and funding. And so I wanted to give you a little bit of an update today on the success and the status of the payments and funding. So we have started with Unit 256 for the first pilot project that you see there, and our friend Kevin out in Abita Springs has also started the assembly period for the second pilot project. We did participate in a 3-day training, both with headquarters as well as Unit 256, and then back to headquarters for full processing. And so I am happy to report that the first payment has been submitted, it was completed, and it has been paid as of this morning. And so we are super excited about that. Of course, there are a couple of minor things that we're working through. So, for instance, like the email notifications, those are all set up. That's always a huge thing. Am I going to get notified that it's my turn to take action? That's one thing that is, it is working, it is functioning. We just need to make sure that the correct roles are associated with the correct users for the pilot so that moving forward as we do begin to implement this payments and change orders throughout the state, that the necessary individuals or the applicable individuals get those notifications so they know that they need to take action next. So super exciting, one step closer. I did want to just give you a little bit of a sneak peek of what that kind of looks like. So as it relates to pay estimates, these are some of the things that will be included, or the functionality that will be available as we look to implement pay estimates and the ability to create those within Headlight. So you see a little bit of a screenshot there. You see some items that will be included in those pay estimates, and that functionality. Also, as it relates to change orders, there's a little bit of an update there. So again, some functionality around change orders that's coming down the pipe. And so all of this is just, of course, to make your life easier, to make it more efficient, to make sure that we are acting as quickly and as promptly as we can as it relates to pay estimates and change orders. And I would love to say, ask me any questions you got, and I'm happy to answer them. But if you have any specific questions about pay estimates, change orders, the pilot project, anything in particular, feel free to either write that in the chat, and Les and I are happy to take that back to the team and get answers for you. But we are super excited. Les and I together sat in those trainings for those 3 days a couple of weeks ago. And so we were super stoked to hear that it went very smoothly as Dane and his group submitted the first payment. And another thing to note there is that really Dane, after sitting through that first payment for Unit 256, sitting through that first training, he was able to intuitively just utilize the system to create the payment, have it work through the necessary workflows. So that all went very smoothly. So good news to be had there. All right. So, I am about 5 months in now with Headlight. And so I have done many, many things over the last 5 months, including, of course, these monthly webinars that we are participating in today. I also actively give updates to the LADOTD headquarters staff on a biweekly basis. And so, as part of our biweekly status update that we have with headquarters, we are looking more into analyzing the data that we are collecting. So, I always say it's great for us to collect all this data, but what are we doing with it? And so part of my process over the last 2 weeks has been to really dive into overall observations, overall system usage, so that I can provide some observations and recommendations for areas of opportunity for improvement. And so that being said, I just wanted to give you, again, a little sneak peek as to what we have found. And so initially, what I'm looking at is just some overall statistics by unit for Q1 and Q2 of this year. Of course, as we move into Q4, I'm going to be looking to gather that information for Q3, which is why Les and I wanted to bring it up today during the call. So what you're seeing on the screen here is simply just that. It is just the raw data that has come from the system to say, here are the total number of active projects within the state of Louisiana for Q1 and Q2. I did want to identify a little bit of a numerical change there on the right-hand side. So again, over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be continuing to dive into this quarterly data to see how can we improve, how can we help support you in utilization of the system. So again, another data point that we're looking at is just overall images, overall weather observations. Are you capturing those narratives? How many work items have been captured through the system? So again, just a little sneak peek at kind of what the data and the analytics is that I am going over with headquarters. And so the next slide is something that historically, I believe, since the relationship with Headlight and LADOTD came about, that some of you may have an older iPad that has this as a sticker on the back of it. So I just wanted to do a little bit of level setting here and just identify some expectations. And so, Les, would you mind kind of going into some of this? And, Les and I have kind of talked a little bit about this, but really the recommendation here is, as we are looking at these analytics and as we are looking at total system usage, we really want you to tell the story. So tell the story of the project. What do you see? What do you hear? What are you experiencing while you're out there? So Les, can you share a little bit about these requirements here as it pertains to site manager today, but going forward, best practices.
Yeah, so this actually has been coming up since we are moving into pilot and kind of getting closer to a maybe a sunsetting site manager one day is what's going to be required there. And these were set up and like Lauren said, some of those were kind of passed out with the iPads where you could stick them in the back and refer to them. These are really all requirements that just are there because of site manager and kind of how it has to filter into site manager since site manager is still the system of record. But moving forward, it was like, okay, so we don't really have to do all of these anymore if you're headlight only. Which ones are we going to do? And it was actually brought up. Terry Hellis from Headlight actually brought this up, and she was like, I say we keep doing the same thing until we kind of get into it. And it makes a lot of sense, right? That we continue to, you move from one system to the next, and you're still doing your O1 work items and your I'm sorry, I think that's supposed to be work hours. O2 general remarks, O3, primary inspector, you keep doing everything the same way you're doing it. And that's not to just add additional work to you, it's to not have to change your entire workflow when we move from system to system. And so I think we'll keep some of these the same, moving into that and then reevaluate it maybe 6 months in and go, okay, so what is actually required? Now, we have always been, I know you guys hear us say this all the time, but images, 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 right? That's what we want the most of. We feel like it's a lot less typing for you. And I know from experience that it really helps as we're trying to work through change orders and claims here at headquarters. Our area engineers up here go through that all the time. Um, but we've been very reserved on saying we want you to take a certain number of images every day. We really, like Lauren said, we just want you to tell the story of the project. Now, we've put out some guidelines that, yeah, if you have a work item, you probably should have 3 or 4 images that are associated to that work item. Or I've just noticed by looking across the state that a project that is really documenting well is taking about 20% of their journal observations are images, right? And so we kind of use those to guide us on how you guys are performing. But we want to say like, and also want to say this is more LADOTD side, not necessarily consultant side. We still would love to give you guys tips, if we see something going on in your project and not saying anything bad about what you're doing. But I know when I was on the pilot project learning Headlight, Terry would call me sometimes and just say, "Hey, I was looking at what you're doing, and if your titles are too long, right? You're using 6 words for your title. It really should be 2 words, and you should be putting more stuff in the description." And that really made me better at my overall observations and utilizing the system like it was supposed to be used. And that's really what we're talking about here. So these unit, like Lauren talking about going into each unit and looking at what you guys are doing and making recommendations. This is not Big Brother or slapping you on the hand. This is just really trying to get everybody across the state kind of doing the same thing, right? Because we hear that all the time that this district does it this way and this district does it another way, and that um, documentation not being the same really causes problems at this level here. And so we want to just make sure everybody's utilizing the system the same. And so don't take it as criticism. That's not what this is. It's just coaching, trying to get you to do what everybody else is doing and kind of what the system is designed to do. So I think that's all I have about that, Lauren.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. That's good. That's good. And
It's a good way to meet you guys and,
yeah,
especially for Lauren and, get to know each other. So,
absolutely, absolutely. And just what Les said, this is absolutely not meant to be a negative thing. I simply want to make sure that where, you guys maybe need some help, I'm there to support you. And so again, as we continue to look at these analytics, I started at the district level to see kind of overall performance, overall data that's available for those districts, then moving into the individual units. And so certainly just looking to support you where you need support. So any questions around usage of the system observations, any questions around that? And y'all know Les and I are available anytime by email. If you want to chat afterwards, we're happy to do that as well. All right, so some exciting news coming. So, I am fully aware that everybody is scheduled to death. So I myself I live, breathe, eat, and sleep by my schedule. So I do want to share some exciting changes that are coming up in Q4 as it relates to these monthly webinars. So we spoke a little bit about last time, we are going to do our best to move these monthly webinars to a quarterly basis to make them more valuable for you. So we wanted to give you a little bit of reasoning behind why are we wanting to change. And so just as I said, we want to make sure that we're making the most of your time. We know that your time is valuable. And so we want to make sure that we are not inundating you with a bunch of calls or a bunch of webinars that maybe you're hearing the same information over and over. So we do want to make sure we are doing our best to reduce any redundancy in the actual communications that we are having with you while making sure that you are getting the valuable information that you need. So that's one reason we are looking to change. Certainly, we want to make sure we are continuously improving this process. We don't want to just keep doing the same thing we've been doing because we've been doing it. We want to make sure that we are evolving to make sure that we remain responsive to your feedback, and we also want to remain committed to just providing you great service. So, with that being said, continuous improvement requires us to evolve and make changes. So last but not least, I would say just at that field level engagement, we want to be able that we want to be able to make sure that you're getting a voice in this. So I know y'all love hearing Les and I talk for this once a month webinar, but we would also like to hear from you. And so I know that your co-parts and your coworkers also would much rather hear from you also periodically. And so that'll help us to engage more at that field level. And again, make sure that you're getting the support you need as well as the value from the software that you're using. So some upcoming changes that Les and I have kind of been talking through is again, shifting to a quarterly webinar with a broader content. So it may just contain our e-construction information, our HaulHub information, or we may be able to bring you some more information from other areas or other aspects of LADOTD. Again, we want to make sure we're reducing that webinar fatigue because we are oftentimes meeting with you multiple times a month. Secondly, just as you see there at that district and unit level engagement, some ideas we've thought about is maybe spotlighting some local successes, featuring a district highlight. These folks are doing really well, as we just talked about through those analytics, maybe showcasing some best practices, and of course, continuing to identify those headlight heroes that we feel are really utilizing the system and taking advantage of what is there at their fingertips. And last but not least, and Les and I are excited about this, but we are cautious about this, is potentially offering an e-construction podcast. And so I know that I spend a lot of time in the car running kids to and from. And so for me to have the availability to listen to different things at the time in which I can is very helpful. That is very useful to me. So we are thinking about potentially offering a podcast. Again, that just provides a little flexibility for users to stay informed on the go. Some of the ideas that you can see there for some content for some of those podcasts could be some interviews with our LADOTD leaders, maybe some of the headlight tips, project spotlights. So instead of just telling you kind of, here are some headlight specific updates, here are some HaulHub updates, but maybe also highlighting or spotlighting some of our ongoing projects that we have throughout the state. And so again, with all of that being said, we are just looking to improve upon what we already have existing here and make sure that we are bringing the most value to you while also taking into consideration your time and your efforts. So more to come on that. And so as we look to, again, just encompass everything that we've kind of been doing and continue on with that, I will allow Les to share about the monthly newsletter. So, Les spends a lot of time on this monthly newsletter, and I just wanted to make sure that everyone on the call understands kind of what's included in that monthly newsletter. And again, if you are not receiving the monthly newsletter, please put your email in the chat. We're happy to make sure to include you on that distribution list. Certainly feel free to reach out to Les or I. But what you see on the screen there is a couple of the highlights that are usually included in the newsletter. So of course, departmental updates, usually around any insights into DOT initiatives, policy changes, any type of strategic goals. Certainly we try our best to include some headlight system updates in there, any monthly events that we've had in the past. What you see on the screen there is the monthly newsletter that Les distributed out for August. You can see there's a couple of opportunities towards the bottom left to join webinars or, and like I said, the monthly event recaps. That's all included in the newsletter. Also, any upcoming calendar or training opportunities. Of course, we like to highlight that Headlight Hero. We also provide resources and support links, and then Les does his best to try to kind of tell us what's up next. So again, all things that are included in that newsletter. So if you are not receiving that, just let us know. And then I will turn it over to Les to tell us who our Headlight Hero of the month is.
Thanks, Lauren. I do
Mhm.
want to say, I know what everybody was thinking when we said we were moving the webinars to quarterly. You were thinking, great, I'm not going to get as many emails from Les, but that is not true. I think you'll end up getting more. It's just different things. So I'm looking forward to it. I do think that after doing the webinar every month for, I think we're probably going on 3 years now, it gets a little stale. And so change is good. Lauren had great ideas about, kind of in between all of that stuff, focusing more on districts and units and like getting closer, like a little tighter knit group. I think that's a great idea and I think it's needed. And so look forward to that. It's just going to be a good change. And even we've been discussing some changes to the newsletter as well. So not sharing that out right now, but yeah, we'll see. This whole podcast thing, I know I have to get on here often, but that is not my personality. I'm sure Lauren will do very well with that. I'm really good behind the camera and like edit it all up and all that stuff, set up microphones. I'm really good at that part, not good at sitting in front of it. So we'll have to talk about that some more, but I do think it'll be fun. Yeah, I think it'll be good. All right, on to the Headlight Hero this month. So just scrolling around, I actually looked through lots of projects this month because unfortunately no one nominated anybody. That makes it easy for me when somebody gets nominated and I can just look at their project, and if they're doing great, we can just add them. But I had to do some searching this month and came across District 2, Unit 262, Monthol down there was I really what impressed me most was out of 776 journal observations, more than half of those were images, which is always great. But really just looking through that, the story was being told of the project, lots of, just concrete pours and lots of images of test results, some annotated images of measurements. That's always great to see. And I really kind of looked to see like, hey, if one of our area engineers was looking at this project trying to figure out what's going on, could they do it? And the answer to that is yes. And so that's why we added Monthol for the Headlight Hero this month. Appreciate the hard work out there. We know it's hot and sometimes you don't want to be out there taking pictures with an iPad. We get it, but we appreciate that. So anyway, that's what I have about that. Thanks, Lauren.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, y'all. Well, that was a whole lot of information in 45 minutes. So, and I know Les and I both talk fast. So, certainly, if any of you have any questions, you are more than welcome to unmute and ask those questions. Again, more than welcome to put those in the chat as well. And then Les and I are always at your fingertips. So, please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. Anybody have any questions about any of the information that we covered today? Y'all are a quiet bunch for Tuesday. All right. Well, I certainly appreciate each and every one of you taking the time out of your day to join us, and we look forward to partnering with you as we work through those analytics. And if you need anything at all, feel free to reach out to Les or I. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, everybody.